Shout when you wanna get off the ride. Shout when you wanna get off the ride. Shout when you wanna get off the ride, 'cause you got.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Smoke Break. I am your host, Alex Crockman. Remember, where there's smoke, there's fire. Tonight we asked 3 questions. Number 1, are we as Americans safe around the police? Secondly, does your party represent your interests? And finally, will Ted Cruz eventually become America's savior? To the first question, are Americans safe around the police? Well, if you're a guy like me, yes. If you're black, the odds are slightly less in your favor. And if you're Rachel Dolezal, could go either way. Could go either way, depending on how much social media that particular police officer is familiar with. Charles Kinsey of Miami, Florida, was shot by police last week while trying to comfort an autistic boy under his care at a home for autistic kids. Police were called to the scene when someone reported seeing the boy flashing what appeared to be a gun. It turned out the boy had a toy truck. Kinsey was shot while laying in the street with his hands up. When the officer who shot Mr. Kinsey was asked why, his answer was a simple, I don't know, which is a more, insightful answer than we've been given for most shootings of young, unarmed black men these last few weeks. Later, the Miami PD tried to justify the shooting as a miss, as they were trying to shoot the autistic man with a toy truck. The Miami Police Department really have an aggressive serve policy. So, if you want to die, be black, and it'll be fine. Next up, does your party represent your interests? The answer is a very complicated one, with a plethora of nuance, political philosophy, and theory based on many geopolitical policy points and micro and macroeconomic views, along with the ever-evolving political climate and system. So the answer is, fuck no. DNC chairwoman and popular Twisted Sister frontman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who cares, stepped down as DNC chairwoman today amidst an email scandal involving Hillary Clinton. So that's more of the same news. The scandal involved very biased memos in Hillary Clinton's favor. According to the Washington Post, the emails included a strategy to boost Hillary Clinton's candidacy during the primaries and disparage Senator Bernie Sanders. It was revealed later that Schultz had planned to get Bernie Sanders and her little dog too. Sources are speculating that the leaked emails came from Russian operatives. The suspects involved in the email leak can be seen here. Moose and Squirrel, Snowden and Assange. Finally, we asked the question tonight, will Ted Cruz become America's savior? Well, not in the way we would like, more in the creepy friend zone guy that is the only one who could pick you up from the nightclub late at night because your friends are too fucked up to bring you home. A lot of dry fingering going on there while you're going home with old Teddy. In a statement later that week, Cruz, actually at the RNC, Ted Cruz refused to endorse Donald Trump outright. In a statement later on his speech, he said he was not in the business of endorsing people who attacked his wife or his father, which is a little bit strange considering this is the man who gave his spouse an MMA-style elbow to the face during a concession speech a couple months back. For more on the political climate right now, we go to senior Smoke Break correspondent KB Marion for a piece on tokenism. KB!
All right, thanks Alex for the tossover. Alex was just talking about the Republican National Convention, and while everyone was over there tripping about Trump's mail-order bride plagiarizing a speech and Steve King's dumbass comments about subgroups in America, there I was looking at the ethnic makeup of the Republican National Convention. And yes, it was wider than Powder's ass in January, okay? And yes, I heard a lot of my left-leaning, liberal, progressive Bernie bros talk about the RNC's lack of diversity. But guess what? Liberal Bernie bros aren't as progressive as you think. What? Oh yeah, liberals have their tokens too. We get it. You like Killer Mike and Kendrick Lamar, okay? Awesome. You put Black Lives Matter as your name on a Starbucks cup. Gee, thanks. I'm sure those that have been unjustly murdered appreciate the sentiment on your iced chai soy latte, okay? Fuck you. Tell me, tell me that it's a reminder of Black Lives Matter and that's lost, rather than just fist bumping to all your Bernie bros out there who acknowledge that there is injustice as they appropriate lingo, style, music, and co-opt and monetize movements and gentrify neighborhoods, keeping the authentic aspects that they like while they toss in, like a Whole Foods, while ignoring the greater issues plaguing the communities they now reside in. This type of liberalism is like in those movies where they have the white teacher come in and save the poor and minorities by having them journal about their problems, then quits and sells their journals and benefits from their strife and leave these kids stuck in the ghetto in an environment where they may not flourish, okay? And they go back to their comfort, and in lies, that's the biggest problem. What is tokenism? It's making people a commodity, okay? And we're not a commodity, fucking Bernie bros. Even if you sit in that comfort that you live within, that's not what our lives are about. Activism requires fucking action, okay? You actually have to do something. So instead of, signing off hashtags and writing names on your Starbucks cups, why don't you actually, push for some legislation? Use your white privilege for some real good shit is what I'm trying to say. Jeez. Back to you, Alex.
Guys, KB Marion! Guys, we're going to take a walk over to the Smokers Lounge and have a little discussion to cap off tonight's show. So come join us. All right, hey, we're here hanging out in the Smokers Lounge. We're going to have us a little chit chat about the current situation of today's politics and whatnot, guys. Welcome. We're joined by there you go. We're joined by comedian and jacket enthusiast Jake Barron. Not Jake Bruning. Just to be clear, Sean Blaha, comedian Sean Blaha is with us tonight.
They took my hat.
Also, comedian Cameron Little. Cameron. Comedian and bloginista Ian, his dick isn't free, Ellis. I was forced to say that. And finally joining us, Christian rapper, Jason Powell. Yeah. All right, guys, let's get right into it. First thing I want to talk about tonight is with the election coming up and the country being in the disarray it's in, a lot of the working class and poor are being disenfranchised. So what I want to ask is, who should minorities and those with a lower economic status vote for in this election? Jason, lead us up. Jason.
Me?
Yes.
Why me? Okay, all right. I kind of have a different take on that question. It's more like, who are minorities going to hold accountable? Because it's just like, it doesn't matter who you vote for, because in an election, people are aligned. So they're telling you what you want to hear so that you can win, right? That's the name of the game. Tell me what I want to hear, so I'll vote for you, and then get in office and to do something totally different. So what's the point? I don't care who you go with, Republican, Democrat, Independent, if you're not going to hold that person to what they said, it doesn't matter. That's my take.
Who have you held accountable?
Okay.
Last year I couldn't vote. It turned out I was registered in a different state, and so what I did was I asked him to vote for me because I wasn't going to vote. That's how involved he is in holding people accountable. That uncomfortable feeling is conviction.
Yes.
So I asked him to vote for Obama, and who did you vote for?
I voted for Obama.
No, you didn't. You said Rob Nader or whoever the crazy third party.
No, well, I can't remember, but president I voted for Obama. Now, when it was the primaries, I can't remember.
Cameron, who do you think? Who's the choice for the working class and the minorities in this country this election, if there is one?
I think third party is directly the best place to go for anyone of a lower economic status, because those are the champions of those people, even though the face and representation might be different.
But don't you think electability is the big issue? It's almost throwing away your vote.
Electability is an illusion cast upon the position. It should be for those who represent you on your beliefs, your opinions, and things that will benefit you as a greater whole. A lot of people don't really see that the third party option has a viability for everyone, and there's not a lot of coverage
the framing
for
of the
that.
question's a little bit, it wasn't very clear either. I guess, when you frame it as, well, in line with your beliefs, in line with who has your best interest, yes, I can see third party. But realistically, in this election cycle, even if, 25% of the electorate go toward a third party, it's still almost not going to matter. Maybe the Green Party gets some funding.
Can I get a clarification? When you say third party, do you mean the Green Party or do you mean Ralph Nader?
I mean,
Ralph Nader's not running.
Ralph Nader isn't running.
Not Ralph Nader, Bernie Sanders. Do you see him as the third
he's not
party?
running.
Bernie
thought
Sanders isn't running
should
either.
have taken the Democratic position. I was a Bernie fan. I believe his positions were the best overall for every person across the country. But in the last election, I voted for Jill Stein for the Green Party because I think her platform as a whole reaches more towards people's needs. And
Well, like how so?
she has positions for social programs, for the elimination of student loan debt, obviously with the Green Party, pursuant of green energies, different forms of energy, which create jobs for those and positions for people who may not be educated through the traditional routes of the educational system in America, but creating positions for people who can come in and not only benefit themselves with the work that they're doing, but benefit financially from doing that work, and can create a better society for themselves as a whole with the positions that she pushes towards.
Blaha, what do you think?
Oh man, I don't think any of the candidates are great. And even as to your question, I don't see it as an issue of who should minorities. I see it more, there's so much of a blending in this country already going on with race and gender and everything. I view it much more of a class. The minorities are quickly becoming everyone who doesn't fucking have money.
The compartmentalization of the poor and the disenfranchised would keep us divided at the bottom, and then, yes, that's an interesting point. Jake, add to that.
So, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know who the third-party candidates are,
You got Jill Stein from Green Party, then who's running as Libertarian? It's Gary Johnson. Yeah.
Okay. I agree with Cameron a little bit, saying that Bernie Sanders was the Democratic candidate that we should have had. Thankfully, now we get to see Hillary Clinton puppeteer as Bernie Sanders, so she pretty much adopts all of his winning strategies, since her current strategy in the primary wasn't polling as someone who was going to defeat Trump, so she quickly adopted a lot of the programs that Bernie Sanders was putting forth. And I don't even know if I'm going to vote, to be honest. The fact that you're limited to those two candidates, I completely agree with a lot of people, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but voting for a third party in this current political climate is honestly wasting it, because they don't have enough funding. A lot of the third party candidates are not on the ballot in a lot of states. So even if the Green Party or the Libertarian Party took, Illinois and New York and California, the three largest states that have, a majority of the Electoral College votes, it wouldn't matter. They would still lose.
Okay, going with that then, with that thought, why haven't third-party candidates gotten any traction over the last 50 years in this country? Jason?
I'm trying to figure it out too, man. But I would assume it's money, right?
It's
to a degree.
Money, media.
So
It's media, because on the news, they don't even give you the third option.
Yeah,
Here, I think it's the naysayers that go, you're throwing your vote away. If you do that, then we're going to have another 8 years of Republicans. That's why we had Bush, because you wanted a third party.
Right? That's the people who are fine with the bullshit system we have. where we just keep doing this bipartisan crap and keep just yelling at each other
Let me-
and not really get
So
to the real
this
issues.
makes me wonder, and we're talking about not voting, I wonder if we all just stayed home. Is that what we need to do?
No.
No.
Okay, well, why not?
It's the
As many
same,
people as
almost
possible
in
need to
a
vote.
reversal mentality of what happened with the EU vote in Britain, that they cast their votes thinking that their vote wouldn't make a change, and it totally made a huge change.
But that's a referendum.
That's a referendum.
It almost
vote.
feels
However,
like,
that's
I mean,
still,
again,
that's
I'm
the
gonna
voice
vote.
of a people making an angry statement.
I'm going to vote, but it almost feels like aren't we enabling a corrupt system? Doesn't it need to be? I mean, the only way to change the system is the people have to do it. The politicians are the gatekeepers.
Oh, yeah,
they are not
absolutely.
going to change the system.
Transparency of the system needs to be greater. There needs to be
We need more voter rights.
a viable understanding that there is more than two options.
Are the liberal minds of America large enough for divisiveness to have two parties?
I think that on a whole, people should push towards being able to accept more than two choices. But as hard as it is for some people now to make a choice between Hillary or Trump, and they're just trying to not bleed from the nose the entire time.
But my question is this: is trying to, because I think we can all agree this the system that's fucked up, and that's from both parties, and that's just the government in general. But I cannot believe that somehow we're going to elect, even if we elected Bernie, okay, and a bunch of progressives into the system. I don't see the system being changed by the gatekeepers. I just don't see it.
The real problem is that the only time someone cares enough about the process is after the process has already started, and you cannot change it once it's already began. Everyone who was bitching about Bernie Sanders being, the superdelegate votes and saying that he was getting essentially primary elections stolen from him because of party officials that had already decided that they didn't want him in power, all of those people, and I hope that I'm wrong, more than anything, I hope that you guys can prove, you as a people can prove me wrong, but as soon as this process is over, it will become a non-issue. No one fucking remembers that the process is what we are really angry at because it's already over. And now that it's over, fuck it, I guess we'll just see what happens in 4 years, and then we'll start caring about it again. And that's the wrong mentality to have. You have to care about the process enough to change it before it starts again.
Also, I think it comes with that there's more focus of the average person on the presidential election than on the middle elections, those that represent us on a local, city, county, state base to the House of Representatives and the Senate. Most people can't even name their state senators, can't name their representatives. Like, I could barely do it, and I try to be as educated as I can about it.
I want to ask a deeper question about the system. So the system being fucked up, it's a culture of being fucked up. Do you think this is because of the historical precedent of it always being fucked up and people just go with the flow of historically it's always been unjust? Or do you think it's this new culture of greed? Which affects it more? Is it like, they're not racist, they're just greedy?
Greed is a new culture? I thought that was
They're equally at fault. The problem with people not being informed is partly the fault of a greedy. I don't want to.
I think it's partly the system, but I think also the system keeps people from being able to access voting. Why do we have postal buildings? Why do we not have voter buildings where people can go? Why is it during the middle of the fucking work week, during the day when most people have to go to their jobs? Yeah. Why can't we make it a whole weekend? We can have celebrations. It's a holiday. Hey, it's voters. We do it once a year. We go vote on issues. Why do we not as citizens even have the access now? Everything can be connected. If we have voter buildings, if there was a huge issue,
we know the answer to these problems. We know it. The problem is, and again, I keep using the same term, but it's the gatekeepers. We're not going to be able to have any kind of real change in this country, any kind of real legislative achievements that are really going to benefit people and bring a middle class back until the entire process is changed. And
so how do we get a set of
whose
keys?
fault is that now? That's what I wonder. Is it our leaders or is it on us as a populace? Who's the onus on?
It's definitely on us.
It's
on the populace as being very apathetic towards it. And how many people do you hear?
Like, how many
But
people are actually educated?
You've got these leaders taking away education. You've got them taking away good jobs, sending them overseas. I'm talking leaders. I mean politicians. I mean business owners. I mean everybody
people with the
who's
money.
prominent in the community and affects us and our economic status. it's like, yeah, it's sure. As a group of people, we outnumber the masters, so to speak, and we can, we have the power, but it's like it just keeps getting whittled away more and more and more each generation. It's, this is why we have low information.
I also think it's a complacency on our own part that we become more and more complacent with the fact that it's not a worry we have, that we have other things we need to worry about more ready. You need to worry about paying your electric bill or paying, getting food later or going, oh man, am I going to go out and meet up with these people? That you have a more ready worry in your life so that the greater things that are so hard and heavy to deal with and think about become something that you're almost afraid to confront.
What's our crutch in this country? Is it the media? Is it religion? Is it both? I mean,
I think
people are more worried about, the afterlife will be okay, so it doesn't matter if we get there. No, Jason,
it's just the readiness.
Oh shit, the only Christian is the one saying, I don't think the afterlife is going to be where we're going to be okay. So we're really fucked.
I honestly think that though we have more worries about the small things about our life because that's the things that we can tangibly attach to and experience on a day-to-day basis.
But religion is being used as a way also to keep people afraid. So you're like, the Muslims are going to come and they're going to bomb the shit out of us, And it's the East versus the West. Like, I get somebody who. This is the only person we have on the panel. Let's get his take on it.
Well, I don't know about all that.
I'm spiritual.
I want to answer, but that's not the question I want to answer.
Well, can I say I have a more optimistic view?
Okay.
If you look at the span of human history, we're less violent now than we've ever been in history. We're becoming better. Look at the span of progress we've had in America in the last 20 years with gay rights, transgender, race relations. This is the death cries of the beast. We're debating the death cries of the beast. It's bad, but it's better than it's ever been. And I think that
better. What do you base better than it's ever been? I mean, we're also what
versus
6 billion
versus crusades versus witch hunts versus slavery.
Here's the thing. We are not
slavery, man.
We're not less violent.
Who's making our shoes in chocolate?
At no point should you be under the illusion that we as a organism are less violent than we were. We're just getting way better at covering up and not letting a populace know about how many people are truly dying. I mean, every single one of us here has a cell phone, and how much blood do you think is, put into those to just? I mean, it's ridiculous to say that we're less violent. We just don't hear about it as much.
Well,
we have a greater transparency of our violence now than we ever did. We have a greater awareness of the fact that these things happen.
But do you think maybe that's a result of that's a cause?
Right, so we're talking about complacency. Then let's talk about activism. Is activism, like KB's piece was talking about in tokenism, is activism merely a trend, or are people
with a lot of people?
Are we
yes.
seeing
totally with a lot of people
with movements like
if they
Black
can
Lives
feel
Matter.
they can do something on the surface to look like they care without actually doing anything to put their feet on the ground, put some sweat and goddamn elbow grease into it, of course they're going to use it in a trendy way. If even with the statistics of people sharing articles based only on their title, there's a great percentage of people who don't even read those articles as long as that title fits with the narrative that they're trying to push towards.
Well,
People won't inform themselves, they just want to appear as though that they care.
I think that protests are part of the strategy, and that they manipulate and co-opt that agenda by making it part of the opposition that they plan for.
Exactly.
It bolsters their image.
I don't think that activism will ever be dead, because I think, unfortunately, it's mainly driven by anger and rage. And as a populace, if we can channel it into actually activism in nonviolent measures and non-destructive ways, it'll always be there. My biggest concern is how much the government, and especially the police, monitor protests. And look at all the Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, really people getting
I think that's a great point. That's a great point because the activism is there. I mean, you can look on Facebook, your friends like this person give a fuck about this, but they've got the hashtag of the day up. But the activism is there, but it's getting shut down. Look at what happened in Chicago after
Yes, they try and shut down protests before they happen.
Recently in Dallas,
there's something
with
very
the,
unethical
shootings in
about
Dallas,
that.
but
That
the police
don't
presence.
There's presences in every major city's police department to infiltrate
Right?
Every protest.
literally
Go inside the row.
police officers in
Fred
there.
Hampton, guys.
They did
Fred
that with
Hampton.
Occupy. They did that with every movement they possibly could. They planned in order to push to an extreme level and go, this is what it is.
Here's two things that every protest actually has to have. One, a clear agenda and message. It can't just be, we think big money is bad. And two, you have to hurt the money. When they walked across traffic and shut down the city for the day, that's real consequences for the system. And the system is what you want to fuck up. When you're going to a protest that they're like, this is your section, and the cops will be around you, and by the way, they're going to have, military-grade tanks and shit. That's not a protest.
There's a great book that dissects the greatest political revolutions in most of the Western world called The Anatomy of a Revolution, that dissects that the beginning of almost every protest, every revolutionary, either political or socially, it starts almost completely out of this thing here is what we all hate. We have no agreement on what we're going to do afterwards, but we know this thing needs to go now. And almost every great revolutionary process that's happened in almost every Western civilized culture has started with, we found our common cause together, and then after the removal of that thing, then comes us deciding what we want to do after the fact. That ends up happening almost every single time, so it's hard for any major group
this election will spark.
to
I
come
hope people will
together
finally be so
and
fucking
decide,
pissed.
like with the Russian Revolution, you had so many different factions going, we all hate the monarchy, and they're screwing us and putting us in a war we don't want to be in, where we have such great disparity amongst ourselves. And only after the removal of the monarchy did they go, oh shit, we don't know what we want. We all disagree on what we want. We think we all agree on a Marxist ideal or a socialist ideal, but these guys are different, they're different, and then they had all these post-revolutionary tasks.
So what do we need in this modern age then to bring everybody together?
Unity between all human beings.
And how does that happen?
Less
How do we
boundaries,
achieve that, though?
less
How do
borders.
Continual
It's not happening through
education,
Facebook,
agreement, and humbling of ourselves at an ego level.
Everyone should probably be doing
Right, but that's,
hallucinogens on a
again,
regular
that's
basis.
the solution, but how do we administer that solution? That's what I'm asking. That seems to be the question we cannot seem to answer on this panel today.
Because everyone has a different opinion on how to do that. That's the
How would
great
you do it?
part. Personally, I think it's to have every person educate themselves in any possible platform as
And
they
how do you
can.
get them to educate themselves?
Instill it for
Start reading to
upon
children.
generation that
First
knowing.
off.
No, that's
and
good.
Even if you disagree with something, you should know about it.
Yes.
Taking taking an opposition to something that you believe in helps define your real position. So that should be the first thing. Anyone that's looking to become involved or to become an activist, the first thing that you should do is play devil's advocate and try and beat your own arguments for what you're trying to accomplish. If you can take the opposition side, it can only make you better because you're understanding what you're fighting
But what do we need
against.
to do to get people involved? Obviously, like I said, we're talking about, it almost seems like Facebook maybe is hurting more because it does, can people see it, everybody sees everything from the peripheral. So you see these things on Facebook, you almost get irritated with it, even if you agree with it.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Wait, can I pose this question to Jason? You think the most important thing in this world is salvation with Jesus? When you talk to your kids about witnessing, what do they need to do to get the word out? And then we're going to co-opt that and use it to lead deliberation.
But that's
very different because that's and I'm not saying this is what you're doing with your
You know
kids,
what? I'd be
but
fine
there
with that.
is
Better than what's gonna
you
happen.
do have to kind of be afraid of a certain level of indoctrination because just telling someone that you need to witness this, I really honestly think that the people who identify as Christians because that's what mom and dad identify as are not true Christians. They're not true religious people. The people who find Jesus or find a religion through their own personal struggles and then come to realize that this is what is making them better and this is what makes them
children
There's got to be a cornerstone to it. Now, what about mandatory voting? What about mandatory voting? Now, if everybody had to go vote like you do in Australia, you get a fine if you don't go vote. Then maybe you have more incentive
Mandatory voting.
to
Also,
know what's going on.
Also, why not have vouchers to where instead of campaigns having to try and organize and waste so much of their time, if we were to give like, hey, you're a voter citizen, you're registered, here's a $50 voucher, you can give it to whatever party or candidate you see fit. We could do that, and it would be way less than the money we spend on fucking advertising for these candidates.
Ian, unless we're
Well, you guys talk about indoctrinating the children into what? I think the idea is human pride. To take pride in your fellow human and to lessen their suffering because we're a single species. Jason?
You know, me and Ian have had this conversation like over the years as presidents have come and gone about how generally, and I'm not just broad brush painting, the president doesn't tend to impact our lives.
Yeah.
Which is why we don't organize and focus our energy into changing the system, because whoever gets up there, you know, it's not like they cause me to not have a job or to have a job.
I don't know, man.
And as we,
if you're a soldier overseas fighting one of the two fronts, if you're sitting in Guantanamo Bay, if you're your president affects you very, very much.
Guys, can we talk about 9/11?
All right, guys, you've been an awesome panel. Give it up one more time for Jason, for Ian, Jake, Sean, Cameron Little. You guys have been awesome. This has been the 4th episode of Smoke Break. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to keep growing with fun. We'll see you back here next week. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
I'm saying, what happened to Building 7?
Shout when you wanna get off the ride. Shout when you wanna get off the ride. Shout when you wanna get off the ride. 'Cause you cross my mind, cross my mind. Oh, make my blood thump 7, 8, 9. Oh, make my heart beat double time. Now I'm the only sour cherry on the